She was a bride, full of hope, excited for the future. Just weeks after her dream wedding in the scenic hills of Manali, her life was brutally cut short. A young woman was found dead, lying beneath a balcony, the cause officially being a fall. But what if it wasn't an accident? Why was the balcony door locked from the inside? Official reports from the authorities said it was a tragic accident. She had fallen from the balcony. But the more we looked into it, the more that explanation seemed simple, almost convenient. How could something so violent happen in a place so serene? The more we uncover about the hotel, the people involved, and the events leading up to her death, the more strange and complicated everything seems. What really happened on that night? Was it truly an accident, or was there something darker hiding beneath the surface? How could no one hear her? Was this simply a tragic fall, or is there something far darker at play? She didn't have bruises or marks that you would expect if there had been any kind of struggle beforehand. If she had been attacked or fought back in some way, there should have been some sign of it on her body. But there was nothing. No marks, no bruises, no indication that she had been in danger before the fall. It was almost as though she had been pushed, or perhaps coerced into a position where she would fall without defending herself. How was it possible for someone to stay hidden and unobserved so close to the scene? According to the timestamps, the bride had been outside on the balcony at a time when most of the hotel staff was on their break. This meant there was no one around who could have witnessed anything unusual. It was almost as if the timing of the fall was perfect. No staff members were nearby, and the quietness of the hotel made it easy for something like this to happen, without anyone noticing. No one seemed to be aware of this person, not the hotel staff nor the security. How did they manage to slip through unnoticed? And if they were close to the balcony, did they have something to do with the bride's fall? This new piece of evidence created more questions than answers. Everything about the scene suggested that the fall wasn't a random tragedy. It might have been planned carefully. There were so many things that didn't add up, leaving investigators and everyone else scratching their heads. When the authorities checked the cameras, they found something unsettling. Was the fall an accident, or had someone been planning something much more sinister? The footage showed a shadowy figure lingering near the balcony just before the fall. Although the bride had been alone in her room, this figure appeared to be close to the door at a very suspicious time. The camera couldn't provide a clear view of their face, but there was enough to raise doubts about the official story. Could this person have been involved in her death? The fact that we couldn't see them clearly only deepened the mystery. It was just enough to make investigators question whether this was really an accident at all. The details surrounding the fall didn't add up, and with each new discovery, the theory of a simple accident became harder to believe. A shadowy figure was seen walking near the balcony just moments before the fall. The figure seemed to approach the door, but the footage was too unclear to make out exactly who it was. The image was grainy and fuzzy, just enough to make investigators wonder if someone else had been involved in the death, but not enough to give them any clear answers. Was this person responsible for her death, or were they simply in the wrong place at the wrong time? Witnesses reported that it was locked from the inside. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no struggle. The room appeared untouched, except for the tragic fall. If there was no one else involved, why hadn't anyone heard anything? Why wasn't there an alarm, or at least some sort of commotion? Hotels like this usually have staff close by, yet the silence was deafening. This wasn't the behavior you'd expect after an accident. If it was just a fall, wouldn't someone have tried to help? Wouldn't someone have heard her scream? The lack of noise was incredibly unsettling. If it was just an accident, why did everything seem so strange? Tonight, we'll reveal shocking evidence and details that have left even investigators questioning the truth. Stick with us to find out what really happened. A newlywed couple's journey begins with so much hope, but the way she fell just far enough for it to seem like a perfect, unfortunate accident was suspicious. Manali's mountainous terrain is known for its steep slopes and sharp drops, which make it easy to overlook dangerous areas. But this wasn't just an accidental fall, it felt too precise. How could such a fall happen without a struggle, without an immediate reaction from the victim? The physical details didn't match the idea of a simple, tragic accident. The timing, the position of the fall, and the lack of noise seemed perfectly orchestrated. Could this have been a setup? The wedding day is often the happiest day of their lives, filled with love, joy, and dreams for the future. It's a place that many couples dream of for their honeymoon, drawn to its peaceful atmosphere and scenic landscapes. For this bride, Manali was meant to be the perfect getaway, a fresh start, but that dream would soon turn into a nightmare. For our victim, this was supposed to be the start of a beautiful new chapter. She had found the man of her dreams, and after an unforgettable wedding, she was looking forward to the life they would build together. But just weeks after their celebration, that bright future was shattered. The story takes us to Manali, a stunning hill station in India, known for its beauty and serenity. Just weeks after their wedding, she was found dead, her lifeless body lying below the balcony of the hotel where she was staying. There were too many questions that couldn't be ignored. Could it have been an accident, a slip in the middle of the night, or was something more sinister at play? Why did no one hear anything? The silence surrounding the incident was unsettling. Manali, with its tranquil beauty, was supposed to be a safe haven, a place where couples could relax and unwind. But it had become the backdrop for a chilling mystery. The contrast between the calm, peaceful environment of Manali and the disturbing reality of what had occurred there is what makes this story so hard to believe. The official reports claimed the bride had simply fallen from the balcony, but the circumstances surrounding her death made that explanation feel far too simple. One of the first things that raised suspicion was the balcony door. Then there was the location of the fall. The balcony itself wasn't very high off the ground. What made it even stranger was that when investigators examined the body, there were no signs of injury, other than the fall itself. And then there was the CCTV footage. The footage alone didn't prove anything, but it certainly raised more questions than it answered. The hotel's security cameras revealed something that added even more confusion to an already mysterious case. The presence of this figure was baffling. Why hadn't anyone noticed them before? But the CCTV footage didn't just show a shadowy figure, it revealed an odd pattern leading up to the fall. To make matters worse, one of the hotel staff members reported hearing a faint scream earlier in the evening. At first, they thought it was just the wind or a sound from a far-off place. But could it have been something else? Could that faint scream have been the bride calling for help in the moments before her death? Some people wondered if the bride's death was a case of suicide. Could she have been so overwhelmed by the pressures of her new life that she decided to end it all? If her death wasn't an accident, what did he have to lose? Could her wealth or status have been the reason for her tragic end? But in the weeks leading up to her wedding, they noticed a change. She had seemed nervous, unsettled, and distant. They even mentioned that she appeared worried about something she couldn't talk about. What was bothering her? Had she known something that no one else had picked up on? Could they have seen warning signs of trouble that they didn't fully understand at the time? Did her family know more than they were letting on? This recording had never been reported before, and it changed everything. The conversation hinted at a deeper, darker story that no one had suspected. His statements about the night of her death didn't match up with the facts. They seemed strangely unaware of the incident until it was too late. Could one of them have been involved in her death? Had they seen something or heard something that they weren't sharing? It raised the question of whether they were simply too scared to speak up, or if they were somehow involved in covering up the truth. Was the hotel, which was supposed to be a safe and trusted place, hiding something more dangerous? Why would he act so strangely if he had nothing to hide? Was he hiding something about that night? Or was he just incredibly distraught? Was it a premeditated murder carried out by someone close to her? Or was it the result of a long-standing, unresolved conflict that no one knew about? The idea that someone she trusted might have been involved in her death made the situation even more unsettling. Could this have been a desperate act? A crime that could have been prevented if someone had spoken up or noticed the warning signs. This small detail added to the mounting suspicion. With every interview and every new piece of evidence, contradictions and inconsistencies began to emerge. The case which had seemed like it might be straightforward, grew more complicated with each passing day. Everyone involved seemed to have something to hide, and the truth appeared to be slipping through their fingers. Each suspect had a motive, but no one could definitively say what had really happened. The more they looked into the case, the more questions arose, and the answers grew harder to find. Could this young bride have been trapped in a relationship that turned dangerous? Some people started to think that her death was the result of a horrible crime that her husband might have been involved in. She had just married a man with a life so different from her own, and the contrast between the two seemed to have created tension. Did this pressure, combined with her husband's influence, lead to a crime of passion? Or was it something more calculated, carefully planned to ensure no one would ever question it? The more they learned, the more it seemed like the case wasn't just about a tragic accident, it was about something much darker that had been hidden beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect marriage. Was he trying to cover something up? Could there have been a secret that she knew about him, something so dark that he couldn't let it get out? The first and most obvious suspect was her husband. From the beginning, his behavior raised red flags. He seemed distant and uncooperative when the authorities tried to speak with him. Was he hiding something? Did he know more than he let on about the events that led to her death? His actions made investigators question whether there was a deeper, more sinister reason behind his strange behavior. Could there have been a financial motive for his wife's untimely death? Was there something to gain from her passing? With wealth and power on the line, many wondered if his financial interests were at stake. Why would the staff dismiss the sound so quickly? Did they know something? Could they have been covering up for something they didn't want others to find out? The lack of clarity surrounding these events only made it harder to accept the official explanation. The footage raised serious doubts. Was the fall really an accident, or was something more sinister at play? And if there was a cover-up, who was involved? The more investigators looked into the details, the more they realized that everything surrounding the fall was not as straightforward as it seemed after the initial investigation. Many theories began to emerge, each making the case even more mysterious. But as investigators looked closer, more unsettling possibilities began to surface. Some experts believe the fall could have been carefully planned to look like an accident. What if someone had been in her room that night and staged everything so perfectly that it would fool anyone looking into it? If someone close to her had the means and opportunity, it would have been easy to create a convincing scenario. The more the investigation unfolded, the more it seemed that this wasn't just an accident, it could have been a well-thought-out crime. There were some chilling signs that made people question this theory. Just hours before her death, the bride had sent a mysterious message to her family. The message wasn't clear, but it hinted that something was wrong, something she couldn't quite put into words. It was almost as if she knew something bad was going to happen, but she couldn't stop it. Why would she send such a message? Was she trying to warn them, or was she asking for help? But the most suspicious part of all came from her new husband. There were even whispers that her marriage might have been more toxic than anyone realized. Adding even more complexity to the situation was her husband's wealth and influence. As authorities dug deeper into the case, they found that the bride had been under a lot of pressure. As the investigation continued, the focus shifted to those closest to the bride. Then there was the bride's family. They had always known her as a woman full of life and excitement. Next, the hotel staff became a part of the investigation. With all these key players, the real motive behind the bride's death became even murkier. As investigators continued their work, they found that many of the answers they were looking for seemed to slip further away. Just when it seemed like the case was going nowhere, a shocking new piece of evidence emerged: a hidden audio recording of a conversation between the bride and an unknown individual on the night of her death. In the recording, the bride was speaking to someone whose voice was unclear, but their words were unmistakable. The person she was speaking to might have been threatening her. The tone of the conversation was tense, and it sounded as though she was trying to defend herself against something she feared. But who was this person? The recording didn't reveal their identity, leaving everyone with more questions than answers. Was this person involved in her death, or were they simply part of a larger story that had yet to be uncovered? This discovery was a breakthrough. Until now, investigators have believed that the fall could have been an accident. Each new piece of information seems to add to the confusion, not lessen it. We may never know what really happened to this young woman, but one thing is for certain. Her death has left an indelible mark on everyone who knew her. As we continue to seek the truth, we are reminded of the powerful emotions and hidden motives that can sometimes lie beneath the surface of seemingly perfect lives. As of now, no one has been arrested or convicted in connection with her death. The search for answers will continue, but for those who loved her, the pain of not knowing the full truth may never go away. Was it truly an accident, or do you believe someone might have tried to cover up a more sinister plot? Who could have benefited from her death? Was it someone close to her, or could it have been a crime of opportunity? What really happened that night? Only time will tell. Until then, the mystery remains, and the questions continue to linger in the minds of all who were touched by this tragic story. The unanswered questions continue to haunt everyone who knew her, the ones who loved her most. Her family, her friends, and even her new husband are left grappling with the mystery of what truly happened that night. If you've been following this case, you know there's still so much that we don't know, and there's so many questions left unanswered. Keep your eyes peeled for updates, because we'll be watching this case closely. But for now, let us leave you with this chilling thought. In a place that seems so peaceful and serene, sometimes the darkest secrets are hiding right in front of us, just waiting to be uncovered. But this new evidence made it seem like it might have been something far more sinister. The conversation suggested that the bride had been in some kind of danger, and that her death might not have been a simple tragedy. Was it someone close to her, someone she trusted, or was it someone outside her circle altogether? This hidden conversation could be the key to unlocking the mystery, but there was still so much left to uncover. And the more they dug into it, the more it seemed that the truth was far more complicated than anyone had imagined. In fact, some now believe this could be part of a much larger conspiracy, one that had been hidden in plain sight. Who could have had the means to carry out such a plot? Who would benefit from her death? And what had they hoped to achieve? The more investigators listened to the audio, the clearer it became that the case was far from over. If the bride had been in contact with someone who could have harmed her, then the fall was no longer just an unfortunate accident. It could have been a carefully planned murder. The possibilities seemed endless, and the stakes were higher than ever. Was it a tragic accident that could have been avoided? Or was it something much more calculated and deliberate? What kind of person could plan something so chilling? And what could drive them to carry out such a horrifying act? This new evidence didn't just change the direction of the investigation, it completely shifted the way everyone thought about the case. The question now was, who could be behind this? As we reflect on the tragic events that unfolded, one thing becomes clear. The full truth behind what happened to this young bride may never be uncovered. The investigation continues, and with every new twist, the case becomes harder to solve. This case serves as a reminder of the darker side of relationships and the lengths some people are willing to go to in order to protect their secrets. The story of her death is far from over. Let me ask you, what do you think really happened to her? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.